What is up, and welcome in to Not Another CFB Pod. This is week 4 now. Crazy we're getting this far along. Squilly, I don't know about you. I had a really bad week last week, and it was sad, but I feel better about this week. I went 2-4 last week, and it was one of those things where it started off bad for me Friday night. I had Maryland and Illinois, and that game was disgusting. Maryland somehow won but didn't cover. It was gross, and that just kind of started bad for me. I went 0-4 on my first 4 plays and then went 2-0 in the last and ended up with a positive day on my own betting, just not all the picks that I gave out. So that's the tough part about giving out picks. How about you?
No, I'm with you. My noon slate, I tailed you on that Maryland play. I tailed you on the In the Weeds play, of course, which was really in the weeds when you ended up watching the game itself. But for me, the biggest part of my day was hitting both my picks, the over in Florida, Alabama, and the Alabama first half, which is the most beautiful way of a game like that to turn out. Was I hit the first half big, and then the second half it became an absolute perfect college football game. I had an absolute thrill watching that. They hit the over 58.5. A lot of people died on the 60.5 because that's what it closed at on Saturday morning. So, and I was with some people that happened to. So that's always a good feeling, I'll say, when you're with people and you got the line about 3 days earlier and you get to be able to enjoy the win when they get, an L or a push. But besides that, I took too many. I had sort of the opposite where my card was solid. I went 3-3 on picks I posted. But besides that, I overexposed myself. I stretched myself too thin. I let UConn come and backdoor me, which I will never let happen again. I promise everyone that. So, this week it's going to be, I'm hoping for a different week. We don't love the board here. The board's a little finicky this week. It's kind of weird. A lot of different numbers around. So I'm interested to see how it'll play out, but I'm excited. Obviously, I can't believe it's already week 4. It feels like, and the best thing about it, college football playoff race is barely even shaped up yet. We have a long, long way to go. It does not seem like, Bama's a great team, but they got taken to the brink. So, they're beatable this year. It's not like last year. So I definitely think it's going to be a really exciting season. And moving forward, as we get into October, teams coalesce. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of crazy this week. Some conferences are starting play, some aren't. I guess I'll kick us off. I've got a couple Friday plays. And the first one I want to lead off with, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons at Virginia Cavaliers. I want to start off by saying Virginia has looked pretty decent this year. They did get smoked. They got boat raced against UNC last week, could not get a stop against them, but their offense looked pretty good. I will have to say that. I like Wake Forest. They've done well for me this season. Sam Hartman, we've talked about him a couple times. They've got a lot of veterans. I believe they have 9 super seniors, which I think is the most in the ACC. I'm leaning on the experience a lot. I'm looking at Wake Forest +4 here. I'm leaning on the experience. Sam Hartman-led team. I think they're going to have no problem scoring on Virginia. At least keep it close enough to hit this +4. A lot of the plays I've given out this year, I've had the favorite, so it feels kind of good to have the road underdog here. I'm thinking maybe a bit of an emotional letdown back at home, but I expect that Virginia crowd to really be going. I'm really dependent on the leadership from Wake Forest. Kind of be in there, not be intimidated by this home crowd of Virginia, and keep this game close enough. So I'm taking Wake Forest +4 on my first play.
I like that play. I think all the thought process is there. For my first play of the weekend, this I could read as a pretty square pick here, but I love Rutgers +20.5 against Michigan. I know Michigan rolled last week. I know they've rolled most of the weeks coming in, but I feel like this Rutgers team just has a different energy for them this year, and 20.5 points, 20.5 points is so many points, and that leaves the back door wide open. And that is sort of my play here. If this John Harbaugh team is for real, if they really do think they can compete in the Big Ten East, I don't think Rutgers is going to be a team that comes in and challenges Ohio State and Michigan for the Big Ten East title. But this Rutgers team is undefeated. They've won their games by significant margins every single time. I think if you get a team that has a consistent track record of success within its own season and is going up against their biggest opponent, potentially of the year, and they're getting 20 points, I think you have to take that every single time. I think that's, I'm not going to say free or anything like that, but I love Rutgers here. I love the Scarlet Knights this season. Really, I see them trending. This season has been an extremely positive result from how they ended last year. It's clearly showing that the stuff that Schiano's doing is working. He's bringing Rutgers back to what it was, even though on the offensive side of the ball, they're doing more in the modern scheme than we've ever seen them do in the past. So I'm excited about this Rutgers team this year. I love 20.5 points. For me also, I don't think Michigan's for real. They gotta play people to be for real. I like Rutgers here. I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I like that pick too, because if we remember last year, Michigan did win that game, but it either went to overtime. I was thinking it maybe went to double overtime. Can't remember for sure.
It did. It went to double overtime.
So I have actually 2 plays left on that Friday night. I'm going 3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday.
Oh my goodness!
So
you're
jumping backwards,
right down the middle.
The Friday night special, loving it. The Liberty Flames, my Liberty Flames on the road at Syracuse. It's a weird place to play, but it's on turf. I love my guy Malik Willis. You know how I feel about him. I think they can cover this. The line is -6. I've got them -6, and then I've also got their team total over. The number I've seen, it's still early, is 29. My book will have it tomorrow, so I'll verify that, but I've seen it at 29 on PointsBet and some other places. So 29 is the team total. I like that too. I think Syracuse is going to struggle to slow these guys down. Malik Willis is the best athlete that they've probably seen all year. They did play Rutgers, but I think Rutgers doesn't present the same amount of versatility that Malik Willis and this offense can come with Hugh Freeze. I'd also like to highlight the defense from Liberty has been pretty solid this season. They did cover for us last week at they had Old Dominion at home, so we love them for that. We respect them a bunch. In fact, today's if you're watching this on YouTube, it's blue above us and below us, and that's kind of their blue, and Ole Miss's blue. It's that same kind of navy blue, dark blue color. But either way, we love the Liberty Flames here. We love Coach Hugh Freeze in a good road spot. This is a spot for them Friday night to make an impression in front of a lot of new fans. Score a bunch of points, see if they can get in the rankings. And big for the Malik Willis campaign, who had 6 touchdowns last game. I don't think Syracuse is that good, so I like them -6 as well. Give me the Liberty Flames all day.
The only reason I would not see that hitting is if Syracuse completely dominates time of possession. Mm-hmm. And even then, because of how dynamic Malik Willis is, and as you said, 4 TDs through the air, 2 on the ground last week. I like that team total a lot. I don't take nearly as much of those. I may tail you right on that, and I do think that's a great call. Even in the Carrier Dome with, however many motherfuckers they got in that joint when they can fill it up. Yes, my next one, I'm going to slide to my second Dune game, and this is sort of a kind of, I guess it's what I would call a knee-jerk reaction to my loss on the under of Georgia, South Carolina last week. What we clearly saw is this Georgia offense is taking steps. Mm-hmm. And this is Georgia versus Vanderbilt, and I'm taking Georgia -20.5 first half. As, again, 20.5, PG found this for me. I couldn't find this on many books anywhere. I think a lot of books are waiting as close as they can get to kickoff to drop this first half line because they know what's going to happen. Vanderbilt may not put a freaking point on the board. Yeah. And South Carolina was able to score a couple times, but that was late. But this Georgia team is the real deal, and their offense is really starting to gel. This defense is absolutely freakish. I don't know if you saw what Shane Beamer in his press conference said when he was like, "What do you mean? They got 5-star positions. They got freaking 11 5-stars on this side of the field, 11 5-stars. They got a D tackle who's 340 pounds who can run faster than every press member in this room." It's just this defense is too good to, when the starters are in, which they'll be in for the first half against an absolutely dog shit Vanderbilt team, to cover 20.5 points. I love the 20.5 first half. JT Daniels is going to keep moving it. This offense is going to keep coalescing. I love this Georgia team. I'm excited to go see them down in Athens in October. It's going to be electric, but nice. I love them in this spot here. Once again, first half play. It's a huge spread. You could honestly take the huge spread because it's Vanderbilt, But again, you want to play it for when the starters are in. I learned my lesson the poor way when the troops let me down last week against the Huskies. So we're riding Georgia first half minus 20.5 against Vanderbilt at noon on Saturday.
I think you're sound there. And like you said, that 20.5 number, if you can get that, it's going to be great because likely all you'll have to do is score 3 touchdowns because I don't know how Vanderbilt is going to score against these starters. They lost last week badly to Stanford. A lot of people had Vandy for some reason. The Sharps thought Vandy could cover that spread against Stanford, and Stanford came in there and just blew them out. I've got an early on Saturday play too. I like Texas at Texas Tech. Give me this over 60.5. Every time these teams come together, it seems to be a shootout. I don't know what it is. It's something about this game. Texas Tech gets up for it. Basically, if you don't know, if you're not from this area, Texas is everyone's rival that's in Texas. They want to beat the Longhorns, so they're going to give them a shot. Tyler Shuck transferred from Oregon down to Texas Tech. That's who Texas Tech's quarterback is. He's looked really nice so far this season. They've scored a lot of points so far. They've played some bum teams, but they also beat a decent Houston team early on in the season. Texas's defense has looked pretty good, but also they got ran over by Arkansas. If anyone saw that game, Arkansas absolutely smacked them. But that was a little different attack. They ran the ball more than they passed it. I think Texas Tech's going to have an opportunity to sling the ball around, spread this Texas team out. Texas switched quarterbacks last week. They're starting Casey Thompson now, and he's a bit more of a dual threat guy in my opinion, but really they were super explosive against Rice last week. It is Rice, but they scored 58 points on them, so we just need 60.5 to hit. I think the last 3 totals in this rivalry, 75, 73, and 119. So we just need to hit 60 and a half. Yeah, so I love this play. I don't know if this rivalry has an official name, but definitely if you ask the folks at Texas Tech, they hate Texas. They're going to try to score as many points as they can. Tyler Shuck slinging the ball around from the West Coast. Love it. Give me this over.
Yep, I love that call. I mean I saw that on the line. I didn't check the total. I saw the spread is like 7.5, 8. Yep. One between 7 and 8. I love that total right there. I'm going to jump on that with you because that is just something that you ride. Like Texas Tech, whenever, Texas is going to have to keep up with them because Texas Tech is just going to be like, let's wheel and deal. Let's absolutely gunsling around. I absolutely love that play. I'm going to jump on that as well, and I think everyone else should, just for an enjoyable start to your afternoon, especially, and hopefully a W as we pull out. I'm going to leave my last noon play for later because I think it has a lot of people that we know online very interested in it. I'm going to jump to, one of our specialties, the fade the people who didn't play last year, and I'm going to go Buffalo minus 13 versus Old Dominion. We saw what Liberty did to Old Dominion last week. We know, Buffalo isn't the same prolific level offense that Liberty is. Obviously, they don't have a guy like Malik Williams. They don't have the same, I forget who their running back was last year, who ran for like 9 TDs in the game.
Jarrett Patterson, I want to say.
You're probably exactly right. They don't have that same playmaker at that level, but they've been hanging with better teams, and this ODU team, again, we're just going with the formula. If you didn't play last year, you're not in the same echelon as anyone else who did, regardless of how good, or if they're Power 5, FCS, Group of 5. Regardless of how good that team is, if they played last year, they are more prepared than you are. So Old Dominion is in trouble. Same with UConn, as we've always discussed, but Old Dominion's in trouble. I love Buffalo. I love the 13 here. Keep it under that 14 points, especially. I think that's crucial just because, just entirely, it's a football number. But I think it's crucial to keep that Buffalo line. If you get it to 13.5, you're going to be fine there as well. But I think this is definitely a great play here, and stick with it. We've seen it's either been, we got to get the stats on these, by the way. Yeah. The fade the teams that didn't play last year, because I think the only loss was the Troops last week to UConn.
Yeah, the backdoor cover, that's the only one I know of
a 34.5 point spread that, of course, I took. Just my luck. But, what do we do? What do? We get back on it. We get back on the horse. We take we take the Buffs, and we ride them all the way home, and ODU they're out of here. They're fade any team that didn't play last year. That's just the rule.
Buffalo returns that same quarterback they had from that good season, and they're off to a pretty good start this year. They got beat by Nebraska, but other than that, they've looked pretty good. So I like this play too. I was surprised to see that number that low. I thought it'd be more around like 17 or maybe 21. So under 2 touchdowns, love it too. I'll go to my next play, which is San Jose State traveling all the way over to Western Michigan. San Jose State last week was on the island in Hawaii. The final score was 17-13. San Jose came out with a close win. I actually had Hawaii +8. It was a late game that I saw somebody throw around. It was late at night. I was up watching on the patio, and I was like, that game's about to start. Let me throw this line out, and luckily it hit. I wasn't up for the end of it, but San Jose brings a really good defense into town. They've got Nick Starkel at quarterback, who you might remember from Texas A&M from a long time ago.
Oh, really?
He's been in the league been in college football, that is, for a long time. But so they do have a good offense. It's in Western Michigan. They beat Pitt last week 44-41, and that's why this total is what it is. But we don't have that Power 5 offensive line pushing around these G5 teams in this case. We've got 2 pretty sound defenses, well-coached teams. San Jose State coming off a gigantic win on the island way over there. Now they've got to fly back to San Jose, fly all the way over to Western Michigan. I don't even remember exactly what town Western Michigan plays in, but it's somewhere way away from San Jose. I know that. A lot of travel. I don't think they're going to have their best stuff offensively. And both these teams average less than this total. In fact, S&P Plus has this game kind of going in like the mid to upper 50s. And again, it's under 63. And then the kicker that just like, I took this bet before I found this out, but the winds are expected to be blowing 14 plus miles an hour, which is huge for this under. It's also supposedly going to be a crosswind. I don't know how they know all that by now, but that's what the forecasts are calling for. And we love windy unders. Give me this under, San Jose State at Western Michigan, under 63.
I'm surprised you didn't tack this on as an in the weeds, because I know for
it's a little
fact
in the weeds.
No one else is going to be looking at the San Jose State Western Michigan under 63 points, because no one watched San Jose State last week when they were on the island, because it was at frickin' Eastern time. It was like ended at 2 and 3 in the morning. So exactly. I would love I wouldn't tack on it in the weeds just for the luck factor.
Yeah, we've got to scrape that off.
we may have to scrape that.
We'll call it in the weeds next week. When we win this one, we'll come back within the weeds.
We'll put it on the bulletin board as in the weeds next week. I like this call a lot. I mean, the fact that if the wins are like that with 2 teams who aren't prolific in the passing game, I'll go for another total here, and I'll kind of go. I won't get that in deep with it, but I'll go to the opposite end. I looked at this LSU Mississippi State line. It's LSU at Mississippi State, over 55.5. To me, the way that these 2 teams are playing this year just screams over for this game. Obviously, it's a Mike Leach, a Mississippi State team, so they're looking to air it out, and they've scored a ton of points. I mean, technically, their NC State game, they only put up 24, but they're averaging around 26, 27 points a game. Mm-hmm. And then LSU is putting up numbers in many of their games, and they're losing these games pretty consistently, which has been the sort of crazy part of it. And I think both these teams kind of realize, hey, you know, maybe not so much Mississippi State, but hey, I think both these teams realize this is SEC play. We need a W. This is SEC West play, and where are we going to get our W? We're going to get it from outscoring the other team. Yep. And to me, if that is the mentality of both of these teams, of like either side, 55, 56 points is low. Yep. That total to me, like while many might see it as, you know, relatively high, each team's got to put up at least 27, you know, at least 28, obviously, pretty much, 4 scores. This game could read as like a 34-31, 29-36. To me, this reads very, very heavily as a high-scoring game. I think both these teams sort of are coming to understand what they do on the offensive side of the ball. I think the question mark on both sides is the defense.
Yeah.
I don't think either team really knows what their culture is, essentially, especially the LSU Tigers. I'm not sure what the hell they're doing on defense these days. At least Mississippi State was able to shut down NC State, who's a quality program.
Yep.
But to me, this 55.5 is a really, really solid number to take this over at. It may not be a guaranteed W, but I do think it's something that sits very well when you put it on your palate and you say, how does this taste? 55.5 as an over for LSU Mississippi State in this day and age looks really good to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mississippi State was a team I had an over on last week at Memphis, and I think they learned a lesson from this game. That did end up going under by, I think, 1 or 2 points. But in that game, Mississippi State was having a lot of success offensively, but they were running kind of a slow, methodical, like, yes, we're air raid, but we're going to slow this down. We're going to keep our defense off the field and let them rest. Ended up burning them in the butt. It was a crazy game. You could argue kind of a bad call. Memphis ended up winning that game. So I think in the back of their minds, they're going to say, you know what, forget going super slow. At times when we need to score, we're going to speed this tempo up. We're going to spread LSU out. They've got a brand new defensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator last year was Bo Pelini. Absolute failure. We know how that went. He got fired. So brand new defensive coordinator in town. Yes, I'm now going to go into my final play. It is still a midday game. I don't have any night games that I'm giving out today. This is a 1 p.m. Central game, a 2 p.m. 2 p.m. East Coast game. This is Wyoming at UConn. We're going back to our fade these teams that didn't play last year, and especially UConn. I want to give this out. UConn not only has their head coach resigned, they've also informed all the assistant coaches that they're not going to be rehired next year. So this is a very strange situation. They're going to be starting 14 true freshmen, including a true freshman quarterback, against Wyoming. I'm taking the Wyoming for the full game, minus 29.5 is what I've seen it at. Wyoming, a really good team that just blew out Ball State, the former MAC champions from last year at home. They beat Ball State 45-12, so even that would cover this 30-point spread. Ball State's a lot better than this UConn team is right now. UConn's just letting these freshmen put tape on film so they can transfer out next season and have a place to land. It's a bad situation for these students. Like we said, maybe it was week 2, Squilly, where we said, yeah, we kind of feel bad for UConn, but at the same time, we can't. We just got to take these lines as we get them. I think Wyoming's going to bury these guys. They're a very physical brand of football. They're a very good defensive team, too. I love this here. Wyoming, minus 29.5, and I think you have a play on this, too. So I'm going to let you take off.
Exactly. Well, this is my last play as well. It's essentially what I would like to dub Squilly's Revenge. I'm not taking the full game. I'm taking Wyoming first half because I will not let what happened to me last weekend happen to me again. Yes. Wyoming first half, minus 17 against UConn. After you sent me the report of all their coaches getting severance packages this week, not like after the game this week, like Tuesday afternoon. Yeah. This UConn program is in fucking shambles. I mean, this UConn team, it's like an embarrassment. At least ODU puts up a fight. At least they seem like they want to be there. So it's just, you gotta keep riding, fading UConn, fading any team that didn't play last year, but especially fading the UConn Huskies. And, shouts out to all my UConn Husky fans who went without football last year and love college football and are now watching this team. God damn, they are in trouble. Because I enjoyed the Army game. The troops were doing great for the whole time. And then I checked the score at the end of the game, and I was like, wait, UConn kicked a field goal? How do you kick a field goal? So we found ourselves in a tough spot on that 34.5.
You might file that away in the old the coaches definitely know the point spread folder, because there's really no reason to kick a field goal when you're down 31 points or whatever, 32 points. Right? Absolutely ridiculous. And you're right. There's a difference even in the teams that were fading this week, UConn and Old Dominion. Old Dominion, that line is 13 for a reason. They're still trying. They're still trying to give it a shot. UConn, they're cooked. That's why this line is at 29.5 points on their home field, which is a joke, by the way. I don't know if you've ever seen a UConn game. It looks like a high school field. It makes me feel kind of bad. It's very kind of long grass, but Wyoming, a physical team, like that play too.
I do have one last play, and it's something that's close to home for a lot of our fellow cheapies here.
That's right.
It's the big game at Soldier Field this weekend that isn't the Bears game because the Bears stink. But congrats to Justin Fields getting that starting job until Andy Dalton's healthy, though. Until Andy Dalton's healthy, though. Because Matt Nagy's a moron of epic proportions. It's Notre Dame plus 6.5. Okay. I love Notre Dame plus 6.5 in this spot. This is too many points for a game that is going to be a slog. If you look at the total when I checked this with Notre Dame getting nearly 7 points was 46.5 points. Mm-hmm. Like either this game goes so heavily under or Notre Dame covers. And I don't expect it to go so heavily under because I trust this Notre Dame offense to be able to put up points. They have enough effective running back. They're the interior, not their outside guys, but their interior, their tight ends, their offensive line, and their running backs. And Jack Cohn is kind of a freaking beast. They have enough to stay with this Wisconsin. Sprinkle on the ND money line. I think you have to sprinkle on the ND money line. And then a little Cheapie special pick, as you know, a lot of guys from the Cheapies are Notre Dame guys, BC guys. BC's plus 1.5 at home against Mizzou. We love our Mizzou. We love the Cats, but listen, BC money line, Notre Dame money line. That's the Cheapies parlay of the week. You take that and you ride it to the house. I think these two games will go. But especially Notre Dame plus 6.5 points is, to me, stealing money.
I love the Cheapie parlay idea. That's a great idea. We got to get that one out there for sure. We do have a lot of Notre Dame fans, and I think this is too many points when you look at a total that's that low.
I love Notre Dame in this spot. And again, BC money line, Notre Dame money line, that's going to put a heavy, probably plus 500 type odds right in your pocket.
It could be. I can try to run it real quick and we can see just for the show.
We might as well see.
Let me be smart and use the Action app on my phone. We are sponsored by Action app, and we love them, and they do a good job of tracking our bets. 520, Squilly. 520 on the Cheapies parlay.
BC money line, Notre Dame money line, the Cheapies parlay, plus 520. Let's go, Cheapies. And I want to say big shout out to Big T for the thread earlier. Yep. Talk to your friends. It's important. If you're having trouble, give each other a call.
Yep.
Rest in peace, Mike.
Yep.
And, hey, it's all about being there for each other and loving each other. That's what we're all about.
There's nothing wrong with reaching out to someone. There's nothing wrong with getting help, for sure. I'm glad we could get that in there, too. So I guess this wraps up week 4. We're looking forward to the board. We're looking forward to what we see. Thanks again for tuning in. And the big announcement is we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now. You can check us out there. Just type in Not Another CFB Pod. There'll likely be a link to it on our Twitters as well. So just check that out. Follow us on Twitter as well. And thanks for hanging out, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Hey, week 4, big time. We thought we didn't love the board, but I guess we did.
We do love the board. Peace out, guys.
Later.